Welcome to another episode of The Last Word on Rugby. We have been treated to an epic finale in the Rugby Championship this past weekend with the Boks claiming back-to-back titles for the first time in the history of the competition. It was a close call, but they managed to pull it through against a fired up Argentina, winning that game by only 2 points at Twickenham when it looked that they were going to pull away again. We are here to discuss that, the future of the Rugby Championship, and then a little bit of URC as the competition heads into another tough weekend for the South African side. If you haven't yet, click that like button, subscribe to our channel, The Clutch ZA, and then share this video so that we can reach those who haven't had a listen to our podcast just yet. It's been quite an exciting end to the Rugby Championship, and the Boks pulled it through. They almost looked like they were going to lose it at the end as Argentina fought back. But Mike, John, you guys are joining me again. Mike, first of all, what an end to an amazing rugby championship, eh?
Yeah, and I think that last game, I think the way the Boks played was influenced by the fact that they knew exactly what they had to do in that game. They just had to win it. They didn't have to score, a lot of points. Yeah, and look, I think that game, a bit of a microcosm of their season, in a way, and that um, they're starting fairly badly with games that they go on to win. They one game where they got off to a flying start, obviously at Ellis Park against Australia, they lost, but it seems like they have got a plan of how they play their rugby games, and they work through their systems, and they take care of their set pieces, and they then put teams away in the second half. I thought, so they were obviously losing at halftime. I think it was by 2 points or so. Um, and then when it got to 29-13, I thought, okay, now they're going to open the throttle, and they're going to run away.
Yeah.
And then again, what we've seen in other games in the Rugby Championship is they gift the opposition points. Um, I think, for instance, Chesney with that Hail Mary pass,
Yeah.
which was a good 7 points. Now that tells me they're still getting the balance right between this attacking way they want to play, but also looking after defense. Because a season ago, or even 2 seasons ago, that kind of pass wouldn't have happened. They would have been a lot more careful. So I think they're still polishing up the way they want to play, getting the balance right between defense and attack. But I do think that on this upcoming tour now in November, the thing Rassie will be saying is we can't be giving away 14 points per game for nothing. But yeah, they hung on there and deserved champions.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of growing pains this year, and
Mm.
it's
Mm.
we have to congratulate the Boks for experimenting with a game plan, not experimenting, but moving to a game plan, trying to evolve, but then experimenting with younger players, other new rookies coming into the team, and still managing to win the rugby championship. It just shows how strong South African rugby and the Springboks are at the moment, because that's incredible. I mean, I likened to my column on Wednesday morning to Tiger Woods' swing change, about him realizing that you can't stand still. You need to keep evolving as a team, and you need to add, as it were, in the golf parlance, you need to add more speed, more distance, more accuracy. And I think that's what they've been trying to do while they've been trying to change the way they play, for maybe pain at the moment, but in 2 years' time, and we've seen glimpses of it. This Bok team could be unstoppable if they can put in those 80-minute performances. At the moment, it's not happening because they are changing the way they are playing. They not really going away from their true DNA of skop, skiet and donder, good set piece, good kicking game, good defense. But they're trying to add a different dimension, and when they see space and actually have also the tools to attack that space and hurt opponents. So that for me was, I think, mission accomplished in terms of what they probably wanted to achieve. The players, they blooded, and also, getting the ball rolling in terms of this new system they want to play.
Mike, and would you say John says mission accomplished for the Boks, but would you go as far as to say mission accomplished for the Rugby Championship as well? Looking at the fact that this tournament is one of very few in the history of the competition that went to the final match of the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, just before I get to that, I just want to add on to what John said about mission accomplished for Rassie and his planning in terms of, we all know he wants 3 to 5 players of world-class ability in every single position, with game time under the belt. And I think just to give a few examples of how, he gave players chances and they took them. Just one, for instance, Kanan Moody at 13. The box season started with Jesse Creel very much entrenched as the number 13 and captain of
Yeah,
the Springboks. By the end of the Rugby Championship, he couldn't catch a game. Um, but he's there, and that happened in similar positions. I thought Ethan Hooker um, established himself at 11, but there's still Curtly Arnser to come back. There's Edwell van der Merwe.
yeah.
I think in terms of him growing depth in positions, and I've just given a couple of examples because there's many more, that's been a success. Yeah, looking at the Rugby Championship as a whole, wow. I mean, it's been the envy of the world. Um, with 2 rounds left, any of 4 teams could have won it. It came down to the very last game. Um, and everyone is saying the most exciting rugby championship ever. And I'd even go as far as to say, to include Tri Nations, going back now, so it's over 30 years. I mean, the
Yeah.
Tri Nations was almost always a one-horse race with the All Blacks, winning it nearly every time. But so if we just take that whole competition as it's grown, Tri Nations Rugby Championship, it's never been so exciting as this. And that is because obviously, the All Blacks are always up there. The Springboks for the last few years, obviously, have become the world's leading team. But then Australia and Argentina, who have been a bit behind the pace for quite a while, stepped up. They came to the top table and they gave good value. I mean, they were fantastic. And now we've got this crazy situation where next year it looks like the Rugby Championship is not going to take place. So we just had the most exciting championship, and now it's like, everyone, we can't wait for next year's, but there isn't one. And I think obviously that's because, well, not I think, I mean, it is clear that there's going to be this New Zealand tour of South Africa, the greatest rivalry tour. I think they're going to play up around 8 games, 3 tests, maybe even a fourth at a neutral venue somewhere. And that means no room for the Rugby Championship. Now, if you're Australia and Argentina, you're going to be saying, hang on, guys, this is not fair. We came to the party, we delivered, and now you're sidelining us. So look, Sanzo haven't said yet what is going to transpire officially,
Yeah.
what will happen with Australia and Argentina. But if I was them, I would be pretty darn cheesed off.
Yeah, and the thing that alerted me to that was listening to Rassi speaking after Saturday's match. I mean, his opening remarks in the press conference, he alluded to the fact that they've won back to back and they are very happy about it, even though they weren't too happy with the performance as a whole, but they were happy to win back to back because they don't know when it's going to be hosted again. And that's the thing that alerted me to The fact that yes, it looks like clearly this inbound test series with the All Blacks is going to take place. John, I don't know, would you want the Rugby Championship to totally go away, or do we still need that tournament to happen to keep the rugby strength in the Southern Hemisphere as good as it is at the moment?
Look, I think that tour next year is going to be absolutely incredible. The throwback to the old tours of yesteryear. I mean, we still remember when was the last one? Was it 1996, where
Yeah.
the Springboks and the All Blacks, and that was one almighty tour. And it's going to be great for some of the smaller unions also to host some of these games, and see some quality rugby, and that's going to be spectacular. But I think it's gonna, yeah, next year it's gonna basically feel very different in terms of what is Argentina and Australia going to do, and how are they
Mm.
going to sort of build on these
This
performances from
performances,
this
yeah,
rugby championship. If you know, Australia are playing really well at the moment and probably better than they have been over the last decade. And they would have ideally loved to have had another proper rugby championship ahead of the World Cup in 2027,
Mm.
which they are hosting. And they would have been, I think, would have been identified another good run in the rugby championship as that ideal platform to go from there again, and then sort of get extremely competitive ahead of the World Cup. So that's quite disappointing, and we have to feel for Argentina as well. I mean, they beat everybody except the Springboks, and they were came within 2 points of beating the Springboks at Twickenham.
yeah,
There we say it. If that game was played in Argentina, it
yeah,
could have been a lot different. So they
Yeah.
would be disappointed, but yeah, but I mean, if I have to choose next year, what I would really love to see in terms of the Rugby Championship or a three-test tour, full tour with the Springboks All Blacks, it's the Springboks All
Yes.
Blacks,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
no,
Yeah.
It's the greatest rivalry in the sport. It's gonna be a fantastic spectacle, and I hope they sort of play it at an FNB stadium where you'll have 90,000
oh,
people.
yeah.
Imagine that. It could be a cauldron. So if I had to choose, I feel sorry for Australia and Argentina for next year. But if I had to choose, come on, guys, this is going to be an unbelievable tour next year.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, John. I mean that it's fantastic that this rivalry tour is happening. But I just feel for Argentina, they remind me of the Free State Cheetahs.
The
They keep getting
stepchild,
left
the
out.
stepchild.
They cheaters on Super Rugby, then they're not. Then they go to the Pro 14, then they got to make way for someone else. And I just feel the Argentina is isolated out in South America. They're always trying to prove themselves, trying to get included, and then get sidelined. So I just hope we don't know what's going to happen in terms of how those teams are going to be look forward, how they're going to be looked after. But I really hope they do something to keep Australia and Argentina going while the greatest rivalry is being played out here.
Yeah, I certainly do agree with John. The best prep for 2027 Rugby World Cup is to face New Zealand in a massive, massive series to see where the Boks are at. But it's going to be very interesting what comes out over the next couple of weeks in terms of that. But for me, tradition, the Rugby Championship cannot die. I feel it needs to be there to keep that strength down in the south. Yes, we know the Six Nations has got its history and all of that, but if you look at how the World Cup, the trophy, it's been part of the South since 2007 after the English won it in '03. But ever since then, it's been in the South, and it shouldn't go anywhere. So hopefully this doesn't impact the Rugby Championship too much. we would still want to see that competition happening. And I mean, like you guys mentioned now, if Argentina, they are not even playing Super Rugby URC at the moment, but they are competing at the highest level on the international stage with some of the top teams in the world. So hopefully that doesn't go away, and we still see the future of the Rugby Championship, right, despite the incoming or outbound tours for the Boks happening. Speaking about that depth that the Boks have built over the last couple of weeks, guys, or I should actually say the last couple of months, because it's been, like Mike said, Jesse started, then Kanan has come in. Where do you feel, as a Springboks team, where do you feel there's still a little bit of depth needed to be created in that squad, if we can zone in on that topic, because we feel they do have enough depth, but certain positions, for instance, for me, number 8, things changed drastically when Jasper arrived on the scene
Mm,
again after his suspension. So
yeah.
if you have maybe one or two positions that you would also like to still see being built out.
Yeah, maybe hooker is a position where there seemed like there could be a little bit of transition going on there. It was always we had Bongi and we had Malcolm, and there was a few other players in the background, but they have just been going strong for so long. But we now start to wonder if Bongi's coming to the end. Will he make 2027? I'm not so sure. But Malcolm now suddenly played the most minutes he's ever played by far. I mean, he was always coming off the bench. Now we've seen him coming through, maybe nailing down that he must be the starting hooker. I mean, that was
Yeah,
a great performance of his at Twickenham. If Bongi, I mean, and I'm not saying it's not going to definitely not make it, but if he starts to slip, down the into the shadows, who's going to come in? Okay, we've had Marnus van der Merwe come in, who's looking pretty good. Jan Hendrik Wessels, we know can play there. Are we going to start seeing maybe a Johan Grobbelaar, who's playing fantastically for the Bulls, maybe knocking on the door saying, hey, don't forget about me.
mm,
Andre Hugo Venter, maybe he's going to get more involved, but I do think that's one position, or possibly a few, where there could be transition over the next year or so.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. Hooker is definitely one of those positions where you feel we're definitely a bit short. I mean, if you Marnus van der Merwe who's playing in Wales, and if you have to go to Wales to find a hooker, instead of not having an option locally, then we're in trouble at this point. But I think we have to make a sort of Rassi. I know he likes the hybrid type players, but we have to now try and make a decision about Jan Hendrik Wessels. I think he's a better
yeah,
hooker than a
Mm.
and
loose head.
lose it.
I
Yeah,
think he could actually be a world-class hooker. He's got that physique. He's
Mhm.
great with the ball in hand, and he's a
that
good
grunt.
jackler
Yeah,
as well. He
mm,
fits the mold for me. So I know there was some problems at loose head also with Gerard Steenekamp, who was injured.
mm.
Stephen
Chuno.
Kitzel was not there anymore. So there was lots of injuries at Loosehead, which maybe necessitated him to play a fair
That
chunk
side.
of the
Yeah.
rugby championship at Loosehead. But I think definitely going forward, he could be that answer in
Mhm.
terms of the hooker position. Number 8 for me is definitely a problem. Eva, the big Evan Roos debate continues.
Yeah.
He's had a decent start to the URC. Will he make the end of year squad? We don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Look,
If you're looking at what happened during his chances of playing this year, so that for me. And then interesting that number 13. Lucanio have we seen the last of him? Does he just need a good rugby, United Rugby Championship maybe
Mm.
to regain a bit of sharpness, bit of form? Will we see him end of
Mm.
year? Kane Moody did really well, deputizing for Jesse Creel, and he got a lot of opportunities. And then for me, fullback,
Mm.
where we've probably seen the last of Ali Leroux, I would imagine. He's been a great servant of South African rugby, but it just seems like he's lost a yard of pace, a bit of sharpness, and at this level, if you're not 100% right at this level, you get found out, and people tend to slip through your legs
Yeah.
in the wet. So I think, yeah, fullback for me, because you've got Apalele Fas is injured at the moment. So
Mm.
there's only Damien Willems. We know Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu can play there, but at the moment there's only Damien Willems, and ideally you would like
Mm.
Sasha play the fly off.
Yeah. And the thing is, if we look at things this way, we've spoken about, yeah, key positions and all of that, but have we thought about what happens when Peter Steff is not there?
Oh,
Is that maybe something that yeah, we are looking at all of those positions, but that number 7 jersey, I mean, look at how the guy went through this rugby championship.
wow, what a
Well,
play.
I'll tell you what happens when Peter Steff is not there is the nation goes into mourning for a week.
Yeah, no,
He-
they definitely do, and it's actually, yeah, we know a guy like Ben Jason Dixon is on the rise, and there's
Yeah,
Ulrich Low, but
yeah,
injured Ulrich Low at the moment. Ben Jason Dixon coming back from a serious injury. Will he make it to?
yeah.
He's been granting it out in the URC, but will he make it to the end of the year tour? That's my worry. And with this new rule cap 30 matches coming in as well, can we depend on Peter Steff for
Yeah.
the next 2 years to play almost every game? That's another crucial position in my eyes that the Boks need to fill. And then shifting our focus to the United Rugby Championship, and just looking at the last couple of weeks of games, Bulls and the Stormers first, second on the log, after their openers at home, but then looking at that travel of the Lions and the Sharks,
Mm.
what do we see happening, especially with the Bulls and Stormers now away, and the other two teams finishing up that side of the world? Why are we still struggling for wins overseas? Mike,
Away from home.
is there a solution for that?
Well, we're talking about the Lions and yeah, the Sharks. Look, the Lions for me, every time I watch them play, it feels like Groundhog Day. I'm sure it feels like that for their players as well.
Uh,
You know, to lose that game the way they did in Wales at the weekend it was exactly how they lost to Griquas in the Currie Cup final. It's exactly how they lost to the Sharks in the previous Currie Cup final. I mean, they have a game pretty much sealed. They've just got to see it out, and then they have a bad exit or something, and the opposition come back right at the death and win the game. So, and then you have the coaching staff saying the same thing that you've heard them say for years. We shot ourselves in the foot. We only have ourselves to blame, and it's like, when are these guys going to snap out of this
Yeah.
this pattern and actually play for 80 minutes and close out a game? Because it's been going on now for years, not weeks or a few
Mm.
matches. Looking at the Sharks, they were always going to struggle on this tour. I must say, I think they played with quite a lot of fight, given that they've got 15, 16 injuries and 11 um, good Springboks away. It was always going to be a useful team that was going to show some grit and some fight, but probably not win games. And now, of course, going to Leinster, and I think this is going to be a very tough ask for them because Leinster, of course, we're not used to seeing them bottom of the log.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so I think the Sharks really are just biding their time. I think they've sent a couple of fringe Springboks across. Mapimpi is there, but I think they're seeing this as a marathon, not a sprint, and
mm.
I said that they'll start to win games as the season progresses. Sorry, I said the Lions were in Wales. Of course, they were in Parma
Zebra,
and
yeah.
against February. Yeah,
Yeah. I actually think if we look at the teams who've done well so far, the Stormers. The Stormers have a fantastic start to the draw now because they've beaten Leinster and they've beaten the Ospreys. And they've got 9 points from those two matches. I think a lot of people were worried about Leinster at the
Mm,
start of the season, but now they go overseas and they've actually got a really manageable tour where they take on the Scarlets this weekend, winnable, Zebra the next weekend, winnable, and then Benetton the next weekend, also winnable. So we could see the Stormers where they normally struggle this time of the year,
yeah,
especially if they start on tour, they could actually get a lot of points here and put a lekker cushion for themselves because it gets difficult after that. They're playing Munster at the end of November. Also, maybe a great time to play Munster because a lot of their Irish internationals will probably be
exactly.
resting.
Yeah.
So the Stormers actually have a fantastic fixture list to sort of get points going and then build a lekker cushion for and then attack again at the end of the year when teams come here to go and play
Mm.
in South African conditions. So for the Stormers, I think this is could turn out to be a brilliant draw.
Yeah, they yeah, it's easier said than done when it comes to the Stormers because they have this ability to shoot themselves in the foot, much like the Lions when they are overseas. And they look so good when they do play to their strengths, but then somewhere something just flips and they go off script and they manage to how do they say pull a
Snatch the
pull a win
snatch.
out of the jaws of a defeat. Yeah, or snatch a defeat out of the jaws of a win. So, so
Uh,
that's gonna be interesting to see how they've matured over the last couple of seasons. They've had some tough losses overseas where they feel things could have gone their way, but they need to snap out of that now. It's like Mike said. The teams need to snap out of that. Doesn't matter if we are under strength or we have all our players playing overseas. The start of the URC season very vital for the South African sides to get as many points as they can so that they can be in those good
you need a home
positions.
playoff.
Yeah, that home run in because
You
you're
need to
not going to
finish in
beat
the
your
top four.
Glasgow. Yeah, you're not going to beat your Glasgow, your Leinster, your Ulster at in Ireland or Scotland for that matter when it comes to the playoffs.
I saw your piece the other day, Leighton, that Damian Willems and Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu could be back for the Stormers. Probably not this weekend, but could they feature somewhere on this tour?
They 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 will because the Stormers are absolutely desperate for at least 14 points out of these four tour matches. Say 15 is a ideal goal.
Uh,
Speaking, you mentioned these three games at the start.
all winnable.
That's the games they are targeting. They won't be there for the Munster game because they will be with the Boks, but they are targeting this Friday's game in Llanelli against the Scarlets. They are targeting this one and then maybe they'll play another game and they will be sent home to rest because they have to be back in the Bok camp towards the end of October, if I'm not mistaken. So they'll play two games and be back home to get an extra week's rest. I feel I got the feeling that's the way Dobbo is looking at it. And they need a 10. Um, Hopefully Warwick Gelant is fit so that they can have a fullback, and then Damian Willemse can maybe slot in at 12. Um, I'd like to see him
Well,
slot in there.
Wandi Simelane would
Yeah,
argue
that's
that
the
um,
yeah.
we don't need Warwick at the moment. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm, I'm all right. He's done
I'm
really well so
it's
far.
yes, yes.
In the 50 jersey, he's really surprised a lot of people, and but I think he said it himself as he's just appreciating the game time. He's been
Mm,
in and out of the Stormers team, um,
yeah.
in and out of the Bulls team of the last few years before moving to the Stormers. So he's just happy to get an extended run,
Mm,
and yeah, good on him for performing.
yeah. We are looking forward to the URC picking up some lekker steam for the South African sides. The Lions, Sharks, they need wins that side of the pond. Then the Stormers and Bulls will hope their box can inspire them to overseas wins, just like they did at Twickenham against Argentina. Guys, thanks for chatting rugby again. It's been another episode of The Last Word on Rugby. If you haven't yet, click that like button, subscribe to the channel as we bring you the latest news from not just the Bok camp, but also the United Rugby Championship as it picks up steam in the new season. John, Mike, thanks again.